Hey guys, it is Mr. NHL and welcome to the first episode of my first podcast called the called the Between the Boards podcast. Now, this is all unedited. Everything is first take. As you can hear, there might be a couple mistakes, but we'll just go with it. And these are topics that are going to be discussed on the battle on Between the Boards. Will be topics that I don't think will make it on my YouTube channel, which is Mr. NHL, but it will be topics that are will continue to be said. These podcasts will be available on Spotify. If you're listening on Spotify, welcome in. And if you're listening on YouTube, welcome in as well. Now, this podcast will be all about, I'm going to talk about Evander Kane. Now, Evander Kane is a very interesting personality, I would say. This guy is 33 years old and he's done a variety of injuries. His injury record has been absolutely insanity. But another thing I want to talk about is he said in an interview with the press, he talked about how his little he had a knee surgery, and he would say he was going to come back to the norm in about 1 to 2 weeks. Now, this is very good news, I would say, for Evander Kane, because this is a player that the Oilers desperately need back in the lineup. The Oilers are lacking something very important, and that important thing is called physicality. Physicality is one of the most important things for the Edmonton Oilers to do, and I think Evander Kane could really bring that back to the team. But I think an issue with this could be like things like his hernia. It was hurting. It was hurting last season. And it really it seemed like a thing that really held Kane back, but he would probably be a real monster in the playoffs. But I think it's going to be very interesting to see how Kane plays. But I mean, let's just think about Kane returning to the lineup. The question is, where would Kane fit into the lineup? Now, I'm just going to look up what the Oilers lineup is right now. And currently, they are playing an LA Kings game so it's the Oilers versus the LA Kings currently. And hopefully, it is possible to win this game because the Oilers desperately need a win. Their standings are not looking so good. Well, they are second, but a bunch of LA games got delayed because of the LA fires. I'm sending prayers to everyone in LA, but I just pulled up the fours list. Number 1 is Ryan, Hopkins, McDavid, and Hyman. That's not being touched. Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Arvidsson. That's not being touched either. But this is where we might see some shuffling. Matthias Janmark, Adam Henrique, and Connor Brown. Well. Maybe we can see Evander Kane fit into one of these places. Because Evander Kane is a left winger. Because he is a left winger, there are options for him. But on the left wing, the Oilers are looking kind of, I would say, weak. Matthias Janmark is on the left wing. So maybe possibly Evander Kane can fit in somehow. But I think Evander Kane will mostly bring in the needed physicality to the Edmonton Oilers team. So, another thing with the new podcast called the Between the Boards podcast, we will have special people coming in at different kinds of times. We'll see how it goes. I'll get a couple guests on the show. Maybe we can get even some more popular guests on the show as well, Oilers players. But we'll see what I can do. This is just the first podcast for the Between the Boards, and I'll just keep talking along. Anyways, another thing I want to talk about the Edmonton Oilers is I want to discuss something that I just recently posted on my YouTube channel, which was the Stuart Skinner video. Now, I know there's a little bit of controversy on that, and I don't mind. It's something that I kind of talked about a lot about Stuart Skinner, and I just want to go into detail. A little bit more, break it down, Stuart Skinner. Now, Stuart Skinner has, in my opinion, he's a pretty underrated goalie. Can I say that? Stuart Skinner is an underrated goalie. His contract is so low. I highlighted that in the video. Yeah, I mentioned that Stuart Skinner had a very low contract. And his contract, like, to be fair, for a starting goalie, it's very, how do I say this, like, cheap? Cheap? It's $2.6 million per year. And dude's getting signed at, like, 2025 to 2026. Like, this is not bad. Imagine having a starting goalie. I mean, come on. You can't compare Bobrovsky with a $10 million contract to a $2.6 million goalie. But, like, I'll respond to a couple things that were said in the comments to that video, saying how the Oilers do need to draft a strong goaltender. And I totally agree. The Oilers need a strong goalie draft prospect because they don't seem to have any goalie prospects in their roster. In Bakersfield, they have Oliver Rodrigue. Rodrigue is not doing so well. He is not NHL ready. We all know that. All Oilers fans will re-experience what happened at the start of the season. Rodrigue is not ready. And Rodrigue will not be ready until a couple of years, until he matures. And will he mature? That is the big thing. Because the thing is, Rodrigue can easily not mature, and we can have ourselves with a pretty interesting prospect. The second thing I also want to talk about on the Between the Boards podcast is, we should say, about Colin Delia? Delala? I don't know, I can't say it, but I think it's Delia. Delia, on the Bakersfield Collins, on the other hand, I thought was a pretty good goalie, but he is pretty old as well at the same time. He's older than Stuart Skinner, so I don't think Delia's going to make the team. He's going to stay in Bakersfield Condors probably the most of his life. And yeah, I think that's probably a lot to say about the goaltending situation. The Oilers do have a very, very weird all over the place goalie situation, and it's something they really need to deal with. This is something that, how to put this into words? The Oilers goalie situation is not looking good for the future. I know the Oilers want to load up all their assets and try to go for the cup run this year, 2024 to 2025. Or no, I mean 2025 to 2026. But, you know, I don't think it's going to go well. Imagine the future of the Oilers. We can't get a good goalie. Number one, because we're not that bad. Number two is no teams are willingly going to ask to take their goalie. Unless we're going to trade major assets, which we really don't want to do. Yeah. So, where do I see Stuart Skinner in 5 years? Okay. This is another topic I also want to talk about. Where would I see Stuart Skinner in 5 years? I would think of him as a... Maybe he would have matured by then. Maybe you could have him as a confident goalie. Now, if he's going to be still up in the NHL, I think so. Another thing is, will he be a backup? Maybe. If the Oilers manage to find a good replacement for him, I think it's possible. I think it is legitimately possible to see Stuart Skinner as a backup, and I think he can get a bunch of praise as a backup. Because he was originally meant to be a backup. You see, Jack Campbell, we signed him for a bunch of money off of Toronto. Guess what happened? He flopped. He got traded to the Detroit for like not even at his entire contract. He got sent up like $875,000, and then went to the NHL Player Assistance Program. But the Oilers do not have a confident starter. So who's gonna come in to replace Stuart Skinner as a starter? So reasonably, looking at the current state of the NHL. And looking at the current state of the Oilers, this is a bold prediction. Stuart Skinner will stay as a goalie until the next 5 years. Now, I would say Stuart Skinner is a very up-and-down goalie. There are times where he can be really, really good, which is actually this LA game I'm watching right now. And there are times that he can be kind of, well, not that good. But it's not to say he's not good, but he is a very, very good goalie because, I mean, he's made some crazy saves. I don't know if you guys have seen him, but dang, he's wicked. With the puck, not with the puck, with his glove, he is absolutely a pretty amazing goaltender. He can make those critical saves. Now, a lot of people will blame the Oilers versus Panthers Game 7 loss on one goal that Stuart Skinner let in softly. But I mean, maybe it's time to look closer into the Oilers' defense. Like, look at their defense roster. I mean, not to say they're not good, but the defensive pairings right now are, I don't know. Now Blanc is doing some whack over there. Wacko. We have Matisse Ekholm, Evan Bouchard. That makes sense, but Evan Bouchard is not good. I'll get back to that later. Darnell Nurse and Troy Stetcher. I'll talk about Darnell Nurse later. Brett Kulak and Ty Emerson. Okay, first of all, let's just break down Brett Kulak and Ty Emerson. Brett Kulak is a pretty good defenseman. Him with Darnell Nurse has surprisingly been really, really good. Yeah, Brett Kulak with Darnell Nurse has been a very good pairing, in my opinion. It's something that I would even consider to keep going. It's something that I would think of as a very elite pairing. I mean, they're one of the top in like expected goals for. They are a very strong pairing, but I guess Christian Blanc wants to split up the talent. So he kind of wants to like almost separate them, and it makes sense. You know, I see where Christian Blanc's coming from. And is it for better? Sure, why not? I mean, the pairing with Brett Kulak and Ty Emerson, it's a pretty good pairing. Ty Emerson is a shutdown defenseman, and Brett Kulak is a speedy skater. So I would say they're pretty good together. It's nothing that goes wacko out of my mind at first. It's something that I would just just shrug off and say, yeah, it's okay. They're not that bad. Another thing I want to point out is, we'll talk about Darnell Nurse. He is my favorite player on the Edmonton Oilers. Has faced a lot of controversy. Now, it's fair to say that he's not always been the best defenseman, and his contract is definitely not the best you can ever get. But we put that on Ken Holland, and we don't put that on Darnell Nurse. But Darnell Nurse could be a very good six. Darnell Nurse is a very good $6 million defenseman. He actually outperforms in certain stats than like Roman Josi, Cale Makar. Like, you could also check out my actual video on my YouTube channel about that, where I'd actually go into depth. But Darnell Nurse is I would say a pretty overall nice defenseman. The only things I would say, like, he's been stuck everywhere with like bad pairings. It seems like something like Darnell Nurse like really has no choice to. He's been suffering a lot through different kinds of pairings. He's been swapped a bunch. And maybe just because he's a type of defenseman that does play on the left wing. Left-shotting defensemen are so hard to find in the NHL right now. Well, in the Oilers, actually. Because it's something that the Oilers really do not have in defensemen. Because Darnell Nurse is the reason why Darnell Nurse is very good, because he shoots left. People like Brett Kulak, who are like usually like playing on the right wing, are forced to almost play on the left wing, and they have to deal with it because the Oilers don't have any actual left shot defensemen. This is a main problem for the Edmonton Oilers. If I had to highlight actual problems, it'd have to be like lack of left shot defenseman, which leads defensemen to play awkwardly. And maybe another thing I would say is no physicality. Those are probably the two main things plaguing the Oilers right now. And, I mean, it makes sense. There could be a better frontline goalie, but currently, we can't get one. The Oilers just do not have the resources to. There's no team on the market willing to put up a good goalie. So yeah, we got Stuart Skinner, and it's not that bad. Stuart Skinner is a good goalie. And for his contract, for his play, for his massive saves at big times, he isn't a bad goalie. He isn't a bad goalie. I think I just want you guys to think about that for a second. because he really isn't a bad goalie. I would say, top level. I would think him as one of the top level defensemen. He isn't that bad. But another thing I also want to highlight in the first episode of Between the Boards is this episode's kind of all over the place. I'm going everywhere. Oh yeah, I also mentioned I'm going to talk about Evan Bouchard. He has not been good. Evan Bouchard has not been good. I'm sorry to break it to you, but Evan Bouchard has not been good. He is so whack. He can go up and down. Number one, he goes like, yeah, I'm the best defenseman in the world. I'm going to make a crazy toe drag, and I'm going to score a goal right here. And I'm going to prove all your haters wrong. That's the Evan Bouchard we need. But, like, more than 80% of the time, we get wacko Evan Bouchard going, oh, guess what? I tripped on thin air, and I just let go of breakaway the other end, and they scored. Yeah, Evan Bouchard. There you have it, guys. It's Evan Bouchard. But in all seriousness, Evan Bouchard has been a lifetime Oiler, and I think he's just going through a bit of a rough patch this season. He can obviously get better. He has it in him. We've seen it. We've seen the toe drag. Everyone is, at this point has seen the toe drag clip of Evan Bouchard scored. We need that Evan Bouchard, and we need that back. But I guess another point to address is the physicality on the Edmonton Oilers. The physicality is not looking good. I'm sorry. The physicality sucks. There is zero physicality on the Edmonton Oilers. It seems like there's basically nothing. Like, the physicality on the Edmonton Oilers is dead. When Nikita Zadorov, like, rushed into Stuart Skinner, hit him straight, and this was during the Boston game, there was no response from Edmonton. Like, what? I mean, today, I'm continuing to edit a video, which will be a Matt Savoie video. Ooh, spoiler. That will be coming out, like, tomorrow, but... tomorrow after the podcast is posted. But, yeah, I was thinking of making an Oilers recap video talking about Kane, but I guess I just make a podcast about it. And I think Between the Boards will be an ongoing podcast. I'll post really daily on Between the Boards, because this is a really chill thing. I just, like, grab a mic. It's not that... It's a little bit of effort researching and stuff, but, I kind of just get to take up a mic, speak what I think, and, about the Oilers' current situation. Oh yeah, back to my point about physicality. I kind of got sidetracked here. But the physicality on the Edmonton Oilers is non-existent. And this is what I'm saying at the start of the podcast. It all almost comes again into one loop. Evander Kane would bring a lot of that physicality back into Edmonton. And it's physicality that they need. The Oilers do not have any physicality. I mean, we saw it once. Sure, why not? Give Podkolzin the credit for having some big hands and beating up another player with like 2 punches. But other than that, the Oilers have no physicality at all. There's no response, like I mentioned, to the Stuart Skinner shove, and we'll have to see. Because the issue is, if the Oilers can't react, they're going to become someone like the Boston Bruins versus Vancouver Canucks. I forgot what date it was, but it was like in the Stanley Cup. It was like in the Stanley Cup playoffs sometime. Maybe it's the finals, I don't know. But the Bruins versus the Canucks. The Canucks basically got beat up out there. They didn't react to anything. They kind of, Boston just punched them like a bobblehead. And Vancouver just did not care. They kept getting punched around the boards. Nothing happened. Now, this is a team that I do not want the Oilers to turn into. The Oilers need physicality. You can't just become a weak team. You have to have someone like Rempe join your team, you know? Imagine the Oilers having an enforcer. And that used to be Kane. But with Kane out, he's going to return in 4 to 8 weeks. 4 to 8 weeks. Which is a very good sign for the Oilers. But I'm also tying it back all the way to the start. Yeah, so he'd be a great addition to the forwards, and he could even bolster the team's fighting urge. The team needs that kind of energy in the locker room. They need Kane. And I think Kane would bring a massive addition when the Oilers reach the playoffs. It would ultimately bring a valuable presence in the locker room. It would provide a valuable mentorship almost in the locker room. But a player that, this almost leads me to another player named Corey Perry. This guy was signed as a veteran, and I don't know what to say about Corey Perry. He could realistically be bad. Corey Perry is a man of many talents. You know, signed to be a veteran to lead the guys. Corey Perry not really fighting out there. Corey Perry getting fought off by little kids. Corey Perry getting beaten up by younger ages because obviously they're faster. Corey Perry not being able to keep up with the skating speed. And the Oilers have a problem with getting old people for their team. They have a massive problem with that. Like, I know you need defensemen, or not defensemen, veterans for your team, and sure, that makes sense. But to make your team so slow, they can't even move other than Connor McDavid. Like, what is that type of team? We need something in there. And I guess the Oilers want to get something in there, and they should. It's something they should really look into making their team younger. When they had Warren Fogle, when they had Ryan McLeod, they were fast. They were speedy. That's what the Oilers needed. And hot take, to win the Stanley Cup, the Oilers need these three things. Number one, stable goaltending. Number two, physicality. And number three, a speedy team. The Florida Panthers, who played against the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup Finals, there's a reason why they won against the Oilers. There's a reason they went up 3-0 in the series until the Oilers came back and then did another heartbreak to Oilers fans in Game 7. There's a reason why the Florida Panthers won. If you look into their team, the Florida Panthers have done an amazing job with physicality. That is a main part. Just like Matthew Tkachuk or Sam Bennett, they can really get under your skin. They can be they can be an annoying pest. But that's what the Oilers need. They need someone like that. An annoying pest. But they have no one. The Oilers are clean. They have no one that can be like a Matthew Tkachuk. And they have no goaltending that could be like Sergei Bobrovsky. I'm not hating on Stuart Skinner. This is not a hate on Stuart Skinner. It's just the Oilers need better goaltender, like a higher level goaltender. Stuart Skinner's doing an amazing job. But with the ability he has, the Oilers need someone that they'll probably use to become a strong player. That could be like Sergei Bobrovsky. That could be someone like Sergei Bobrovsky, but teams are not going to give up their star goaltenders. But the Oilers need someone like that. They need someone that's strong. They need someone that's willing to do these types of amazing things. They need someone to grip for them. They need someone to make those saves, to make actually amazing saves. They need someone to continue with that. And I think that's a major part of the Oilers being able to win the Stanley Cup this season. And now to move on to my second point, physicality. Once again, I'm comparing to the Florida Panthers, but this can also apply to any of the other older Stanley Cup champions. Physicality. Why is the main part? Because just to get, like I said again, to get under the player's skin. There is something that is important in hockey games. And that importance is to almost make the other team so annoyed with you, they can't even play hockey. This is what Sam Bennett does. This is what Matthew Tkachuk does. This is what Brad Marchand does on the Boston Bruins. This is what the Oilers need. They need physicality. They gotta get into rough stuff. And that's some stuff that I want to see. Legitimately. I want to see the Oilers get into some rough battles. I want to see the Oilers get into those fights. I want to see the Oilers do something for once. Because they haven't. Truthfully, the Oilers have not done barely any response in physicality. There have been no actual hockey fights since a bit of time. And the Oilers need to get into that physical battle. And number 3, what I said, I think I would say the first 2 are probably major, and that would be some major things that the Oilers would obviously need. But I guess the third one about younger speed, younger could also technically apply. It's a kind of a minority, but it can still work because younger skaters equal faster team. When I saw the Oilers play the New Jersey Devils, this was something that I kind of went like, whoa, to. Like, the New Jersey Devils are fast. They are a young team, fast-paced. The Oilers, they couldn't keep up. They are so slow. The New Jersey Devils were like rushing the puck in. They would keep going in. They were continuing to attack the Oilers. They never ran out of speed. And the Oilers just like, whatever, just enter in our zone. We can't even catch up to you. We're so tired. Yeah, this is the problem with having a very old team. Sure, you can have veterans, but the Oilers need something young. They need someone that has the speed. They need someone that can skate up and down the ice. They need someone that is willing to take their speed and continue it on for the entire game, creating stamina. The Oilers don't have a young team. I mean, there are prospects in Bakersfield. Like I said, I'm going to make a video tomorrow after the podcast launches about Matt Savoie. Calling on Matt Savoie, here's a little bit of a leak almost. From a news article I was reading while researching. It showed how Matt Savoie will not come into the Oilers lineup this season, but it is written in pencil, not pen, that he might be in the Edmonton Oilers for the 2025 and 2026 season. Boom! Mic drop. The Oilers might have actually a young talent on their team. Now, emphasizing to have young talent is something that the Oilers really need. They can arrange all the way from getting someone like Matt Savoie on their team to getting someone like Noah Philp. Where did he go? Come on. Get Noah Philp to replace an old man Derek Ryan on the team. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about on the Between the Boards podcast. It's something that we really should emphasize. The Oilers will need something that's happening. The Oilers will need something that continues to build them. They will need someone younger to bolster their lineup. Because the younger players have speed. The younger players have the talent. And the younger players have what they really need. This is something that is very important for the Edmonton Oilers. Younger players can actually bolster the line. They can bolster the energy of the team. They can really change the entire room around. And this is what I want to emphasize. With someone like Matt Savoie, someone like Noah Philp added to the team, it is someone that is really needed. Both of these players, I don't know, even like, you could take Sam O'Reilly, for example. The guy that just got drafted in the 2023 to 2024 draft. Sam O'Reilly got drafted by the Edmonton Oilers, and he has speed. He is a speedy defenseman. And the Oilers need someone like that on their team. Come on, we need, let's be honest here. Veterans are slow. Sure, they have knowledge. They have vast knowledge, but you got to find a good balance. And I think that's the main struggle for Oilers management here, is finding a good balance between veteran and nothing. They're currently building their team around Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. What happens if they get old? Who will replace them? Now, this is what we might see another decade of darkness in, which is a problem. The Oilers need to stop another decade of darkness by adding younger players to the team and adding younger prospects. Younger prospects is something that every single team wants to add. Now, finding these younger prospects will be hard. With a team that is currently centered around making the Stanley Cup playoffs and winning the cup, they're really not focusing on later. While other teams, like the San Jose Sharks, they're really thinking about later. They're thinking about in the future because they have nothing to do right now. I mean, another thing I'd like to say is physicality. Just as I was saying that the Oilers had no physicality, there's a bit of a brawl that happened against the LA Kings, and I think that's a good sign. The Oilers really need to step up their physicality game. And shout out to Kasperi Kapanen and McDavid for getting physical. No, just Kasperi Kapanen. I'm just kidding. Kasperi Kapanen for getting physical and stepping in for his captain. These are players that we need. After McDavid got brawled over by an LA Kings player, Kapanen stepped in and fought him a little bit. And this is something that we need. The Oilers need this physicality. And congrats to Kasperi Kapanen for stepping in. This is a new addition. The new additions are actually willing to fight. And they really have to change the dynamic in Edmonton to make this actually happen. They need to change the dynamic of actual players fighting. And Christian Blanc, actually, in my opinion, has created a pretty soft team. This team is not to roast Christian Blanc or anything, but he has created a very soft team. He's saying through wording in multiple different interviews, saying, the Oilers just gotta stick to their plan and not annoy the other team and not take useless penalties, but he's kind of made this team a little soft. And the team needs to be physical. It's just a harsh truth. When McDavid's body checking, the entire team will start body checking. This is almost going to my next point about leaders. The Oilers need leaders. They need people that, just like Connor McDavid, just like Draisaitl, they lead by example. If McDavid starts body checking, if McDavid starts getting physical, you can notice in those types of games, the Oilers get physical. The entire team gets physical from top to bottom. So if McDavid almost becomes a role model and starts to fight, the entire team will start to fight. And if McDavid works hard, the entire team will slack off. Now, this is the inconsistency here. McDavid being really, really good will cause the entire team to slack off. And to win a Stanley Cup, it doesn't take one person. It takes an entire team. Currently, the Oilers' reliability almost on each other is kind of like a lose-lose situation. If McDavid becomes a try-hard and he goes crazy and he scores a bunch of goals, the entire team slacks off. They don't care. If McDavid slacks off and he sucks, the entire team will basically also slack off. But there are rare cases where people like Connor Brown, like the fourth line and third line, will carry, and they will carry for the first and second line. And these are cases I think needs to happen more. The Oilers need good depth. When the Oilers were on the playoff run, or when they were on the 16-game win streak, a major thing to notice is that every single line from every single team was contributing absolutely amazingly. They were giving their full effort. Not to say the team doesn't give their full effort sometimes, but I mean, it certainly looks like it on the ice. But who am I to know? I'm not an Oilers player. I'm not in the locker. But there really needs to be something that adds to this Oilers locker. Also, another thing, just going to end the podcast here. I know this is not as long as your usual podcast, but I'd just like to mention, Between the Boards will be a podcast that is mostly around half an hour, or maybe longer. It might become an hour soon. But I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Between the Boards with Mr. H.O. And hopefully we can get some bigger guests on here. there might be bigger guests to come onto the Between the Boards podcast. So make sure, whether you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, to check out and be waiting for the next Between the Boards podcast.